शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां भिषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிருக்தோ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே ஜகதः பிதரௌ வந்தே பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வரௌ. ஸ்ரீ பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வராभ्यां நமः. कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी द्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ട തോറു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കെന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning everyone, welcome to the class. Okay, so today we are doing a review of 79. Say, Matingi ninga pantella iniki?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dasakam 79, Rukmini Haranam. Balasameta Palanugatu Bhavan Puramaga Hata Bhishmaka Mannitaha Tvajasutam Tvadupagamavadinam Dhritarasa tarasa prananamasa.
In the second line, last word, manitaha. Okay. Bhishma,
Manitaha.
Yeah.
Bhuvanakantamaveksya bhavat vapuhu nrupasutasya nishamya cha chestitam vipulakedadusham puravasinam saruditair uditair agaman manishaha tadanuvandi
Agamanisha. No,
manisha
Yeah.
तदनुवन्दितुम् इन्दुमुखी शिवां विहितमङ्गलभूषणबासुरा निरगमद्भवत् अर्पितजीविता स्वपुरतः पुरतैः सुभटा वृथा कुवलधूपि रूपित्य कुमारिका गिरिसुतां परिपूज्य च सादरम् मुकुरयाचत तत्पदा पङ्कजे निपतिता पतितां तव केवलम् समवलोक कुतूहलासङ्कुले नृपकुले नृभृतां त्वयि च स्थिते नृप्रसुता निरगाद्गिरिजालयात् सुरचिरं रुचिरञ्जितदिङ्मुखा मुखादान
Mukha.
भुवनमोहनरूपरुचा तदा विवशिता किल राजकदम्बया त्वमपि देव कटाक्षविमोक्षणैः प्रमदया मदयाञ्चक्रेशमनाक्
Madayanchakrishe.
मदयाञ्चकृषे सारी मदयाञ्चकृषे मनाक् क्वनुगमिष्यसि चन्द्रमुखीति तां सरसमेत्य करेण हरञ्चनात् समधिरोप्य रतं त्वम प्रहर्तः पाकृताः भुवि ततो विदतो निनदो द्विषाम् क्वनुगतः पशुपाल इति क्रुधा कृतरना यदुभिश्च जिता नृपाः न तु भवानुद चालयत तैरहो पिशुनकशुनुकैरिवा केसरी
The third line வந்து chalyate is a ill, not a chal. Full la கிடையாது. So natu bhavan uda chalyate.
चाल्यतव
Yeah, that's ill.
चाल्यत तैरहो पिशुनकशुनु कैरिव केसरी तदनु रुक्मिणम् आगतम् आहवे वदमुपेक्षयन् निबध्य विरूपयन् ऋतमदं परिमुच्य बलोक्तिभिः पुरमया रमया सखकान्तया नवसमागमलज्जितमानसां प्रणयकौतुकजिमृतमन्मताम् अरमह्यः खलु नातयात सुखं नातयता सुखं रहसितां हसितां शुलसन् मुखीं विविधनर्मभिरेव महर्निशं प्रमदमाकलयन् पुनरेकदा ऋजुमत किल वक्रगिरा भवान् भरत नोरतनोद atilolatam atilolatam tadadikairata lalana kaushalaihi pranayinim adikam sukayannimam aimukunda bhavacha charitani naf pragadatam gatatantim apakuru. Parabrahmane namaha.
Very good. Okay. All right. So 79. So let's continue with the Dasakam 80 that we were doing. I think we had finished up to stanza 8. So we'll continue from there. So let me just see. Go ahead. Sujata Garu, are you there today? Maybe Sujata Garu is not there. Okay, so Padma Garu, you can be a student, and then Shanti, you can be a student. Okay, first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I think we did 8, so we'll start with 9. Akrura yesha bhagavan bhavadichhayaiva satrajita kucharitasya yuyoja himsam akrurato manimana hritavan punastvam tasyaiva bhutim upadhatumiti bhruvanti. Just to kind of recap of the Semantaka jewel, right? What the story that we were following. So you all remember the part where Krishna goes and marries Jambavati. He comes back. He returns the jewel to Satrajit. So that's how, all of that. And then he gets to marry Satyabhama in return, right? So all of that is happening, right? And then we saw how the people, the Akrura, Kritavarma, and a few of these people, Shatadhanva, all of these people who actually wanted the jewel, and primarily Shatadhanva was the one who was going to marry Satyabhama, because all of that did not happen. They ended up getting rid of Satyajit and then stealing the jewel. And later on, when Krishna and Balarama and all come back and they start finding this Kritavarma is, going around. He first goes to Shatadhanva, sorry. He first goes to Kritavarma and says, hey, can you help me out? He says no. He goes to Akrura, even then he also says no. And eventually the Shatadhanva ends up dying, because wherever the jewel is going, they're actually causing only harm to people. So finally, but before he left the jewel with Akrura and went. So here it says, this Akrura, because he was now having the jewel with him, so it's anytime you have something which is stolen, right? It never gives you pleasure, right? That's what is happening here with Akrura. Because now Akrura has this jewel, he doesn't know what to do with it, and he's worried that all these people are going to come for him someday. So he's beginning to really get concerned. So what he then does is, they have a saying that if you're always doing homam or you're always praying, then nobody will get rid of you, because they don't want to kill somebody when somebody is always praying, right? So what this Akrura does is he goes on this mission of actually performing homams and doing something every day, because because he feels that way nobody will actually come and disrupt him. So here Bhattacharya also is saying that Krishna, while you knew about it, you knew about Akrura had actually taken this one, you did not directly confront him, right? However, what Krishna then did was, and I'm kind of saying 9th and 10th stanza together, is Krishna does is he then gives Akrura a chance. So he tells him, you come to the court, no, nothing will happen to you, but you accept that you have the jewel and you have taken it and you return back to the kingdom, right? That way, nobody will suspect that somebody else took it. So Akrura then finally comes to realization after several years, right? He comes to the realization and he says, this is actually not giving me peace of mind, right? So he finally comes and then he accepts in the court that he's the one who has been having the jewel. He's the one who has the stolen one and nobody else is at fault. And then he finally surrenders. Here, Bhattacharya, again, Akrura is a very big devotee, right? But here, Bhattacharya also in the stanza 10, it says, like, how can such a person who's so devoted suddenly get into evil ways? And he says, so Krishna, it is because of your willing. You decided there was something else that was missing in him. And this was actually one way for him to get into the state of realization, which is why you pushed him into this, made him realize that way he can improve further, right? That's why he can become even more enlightened and peaceful later on. That comes in the 10th stanza, but 9 and 10 anyway are connected. So, Akrura Esha Bhagavan Bhavadichhayaiva, Satrajitaha, put the ich sound, Satrajitah, Kucharitasya Yuyoja Himsam, Akrurato manim anahritavan. If you want to break it, manim anahritavan punastvam, comma, tasyaiva bhutim upadhatum iti bruvanti. If you want to break it. अक्रूर एष भगवन् भवदिच्छयैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना कृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिम् उपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति.
अक्रूर एष भगवन् भगदिच्छयैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना हृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिमुपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति. अक्रूर एष भगवन् भवदिच्छयैव तत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना हृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिमुपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति.
अक्रूर एष भगवन् भवदिच्छयैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना हृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिम् उपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति. अक्रूर एष भगवन् भवदिच्छयैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना हृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिम् उपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति.
भक्तस् त्वयि स्थिरतरः is that put is sthirataras sahi Gandhineyaha. Gandhineya is referring to Akrura only. Gandhineyaha, put a visarga at the end of that line, comma. Next line, the is goes away. Tasyaiva kapata matihi, put a ih sound to join. Matih katamisha jata. Vijnanavan prashamavan aham ityudhirnam. I'm just breaking it. Prashamavan aham ityudhirnam, put a plus. Garvam dhruvam Shamayitum, comma, and then a comma. So third line is continuous, then Shamayitum, comma, Bhavata Kritaiva. He says this, all these incidents which are actually happening with Akrura and everybody, all of that was done because they all have, everybody has some level of pride, and sometime when they get, this material things like jewels, whatever, in this case, Samantaka, because like I told you, whoever has it, gives them a lot of gold every day. That's what was happening. So the greed and the pride, everything which was still left in Akrura, you wanted to get rid of it, enlighten him further. That's why Bhavata Kritaiva, only because of your intent and of your wish that all of this ended up happening, and he learned his lesson. Bhaktastvai sthirataras sahi Gandhineyah tasyaiva kapatamate katamisha jata Vijnanavan prashamavan ahamityudirnam garvam dhruvam shamayitum bhavata kritaiva.
Bhaktastvai terastaras sahi Gandhineyah tasyaiva kapathamati kathamisha jata Vijnanavan prashamavan ahamityudirnam garvam dhruvam shamayitum bhavata krutaiva.
Padmagara, after that Shamayitum, there is a comma, pause, okay? In the fourth line.
Shamayitum, okay, sir. Bhaktastvai sthirataras saha Gandhineyah tasyaiva kapathamati katamisha jata Vijnanavan prashamavan ahamityudirnam garvam dhruvam shamayitum bhavata krutaiva.
Bhaktastvai sthirataras sahi Gandhineyah tasyaiva kapatamati kadami sajata Vijnanavan prasamavan ahamityudirnam garvam dhruvam samayitum bhavata krutaiva.
Something the first line less stiratara.
Okay.
I think you said something else slightly different. Second word, first line, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Bhaktastvai sthirataras saha Gandhineyah.
Sthirataras.
Bhaktastvai sthirataras sahi Gandhineyah tasyaiva kapatamati kadami sajata विज्ञानवान् प्रसमवान् अहमित्युदीर्णं गर्वं ध्रुवं समयितुं भवता कृतैव.
Again, the fourth line after Shamayitum, there's a pause. Okay. That's 11. Yatam bhayena kritavarmayutam punastamahuya tat vinihitam chamanim prakashya tatraiva subratadhare vinidhaya tushyan bhama kuchanta shayanah pavane shapayah. So with that, although Akrura then came to the realization and then you got him back to the court and made him accept that he's the one who had actually done it, you did not give any punishment to Akrura because he was also a very wise person who ended up going in wrong ways. So you actually end up, Krishna also doesn't want this jewel from the beginning, but every time it goes to the hands of different people, something is happening, right? So anyway, here he says you can keep it, but again, do it for the prosperity of the kingdom. So because they're all in Dwaraka, so Akrura agrees and then everything becomes good. And you, Krishna, right now Krishna is only married to two people, actually three people, right? Rukmini, Satyabhama and Jambavati. So here it says right now, Bhama Kuchanta Shayana, you are spending your time with Bhama, with Satyabhama, O Lord of Guruvayur, please protect my ailments. Yatam Bhayena Kritavarma Yutam Punastam. So put a im at the end of that first line because the ma is on the second line, but we're going to put a plus at the end of it. So punastam, put a plus, then ahuya in the next line. Ahuya tad vinihitam cha manim prakashya tatraiva subrata dhare vinidhaya tushyanne, comma, bhama kuchanta shayanaha, put a f, shayanah, pavanesha payaha. Yatam bhayena kritavarmayutam punastamahuya tat vinihitam chamanim prakashya tatraiva subratadhare vinidhaya tushyanne bhama kuchanta shayanah pavane shapayah.
Yatam bhayena kritavarmayutam punastam आहूय तद्वनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुव्रतधरे विनीताय तुष्यन् भामाकुचान्तशयनः पवनेशपायाः.
Padma Garu, second line, tad vinihitam.
Tadvanihitam.
No, you are saying tadvanihitam. Tad vinihitam.
Okay, tadvinihitam.
Satish Garu, sorry to interrupt. The last line, my book says Pama Kuchanta Rashaya. But
yeah, it means the same thing. Rashaya Shayana. Shayana is like lying down or resting on the chest of Bhama. So now just change it to Shayana for consistency. So Shayanaha, so you put Shayana and then F.
Thank you.
But it actually means you're resting on Bhama, you're relaxing on Bhama's chest. That's what it is.
याथं वयेन कृतवर्मयुतं पुनस्तम् आहूय तद्विनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुव्रतधरे विनिधाय तुष्यन् भामाकुचान्तशयनः पवनेशपायाः.
यादम्बयेन कृतवर्मयुधं पुनस्तम् आहूय तत् विनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुव्रतधरे विनिधाय दुष्यन् भामाकुचान्तशयनः भवने सभायाः. यादम्बयेन कृतवर्मयुधं पुनस्तम् आहूय तत् विनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुव्रतधरे विनिधाय दुष्यन् भामाकुचान्तशयनः पवने सभायाः.
Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. And completes 80. So we'll start with 81. So 81 is got a lot of things in it, but my book's title just says Narakasura Vada Varnanam. It says that because that's the main thing that happens, but a lot of other things also happen. So your book may have a lot of other titles or headings to that thing. So what is happening is, to some extent from here on, like I was telling last time, this Mahabharata stories and all start getting embedded, right? So but Narayaneeyam as such does not get into the details of Mahabharata, right? Neither does Bhagavatam, but it only touches the surfaces of Mahabharata where Krishna gets involved, right? So that is how all of this is getting covered. So when I'm telling these stories, I won't go too much into the details of Mahabharata because that is a session of its own. That's like 1 lakh shlokas, right? Mahabharata, so we will never get to that. So here I'll only touch on wherever Krishna is participating or whatever is happening. Okay, stanza 1. Snigdham mugdham satatam apitam lalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas saha khalutaya yajñaseni vivaham partha priti punarapi managastito hastipuryam shakra prastam puramapi vibo samvidhaya gato bhuh. So Yajñaseni is referring to the daughter of Yajñasena, which is actually Draupadi. So, so Krishna is Satyabhama, Rukmini, they're all in Dwaraka right now. Jambavati, 3 right now, because I'll ask you the question like quiz, and quiz is going to come later in this chapter. So you may want to write down the names. So then what happens is, at the time Draupadi marriage happens with the Pandavas. So Krishna comes to hear about this news, how Arjuna ended up going and, shooting that arrow and getting married to Draupadi, how he comes back, all 5 of them get married to Draupadi. So when they come back at the time, so Dhritarashtra then says, what, why are we fighting? So they all agree to give Pandavas some land with discussion with Bhishma, Drona and all, they give them some land. But they actually give them a barren land, a land where there is actually nothing, right? So what Krishna then does is he tells Arjuna, and then they actually burn that entire land. It's actually a land called Khandava. Khandava Prastha was what it was called. So they end up, it's a forest actually, not barren, it's a forest land. So they end up burning that entire land, right? And then what? And driving away all the things which were not good, like weed or whatever else was there. They completely end up burning that Khandava Prastha with fire, with Agni's help. And then what happens at that time, Indra then gets very angry with it, but then there is a small battle that happens between Indra and Arjuna. And that's how, then Agni comes and gives Arjuna the Ghandiva bow and all that stuff. Indra gets happy. And then they say, you all can take that land. So that's why that land was called as Indraprastha, which is referring to Delhi. So that becomes the capital of the Pandavas. So here he says, you, Krishna, you did go to Hastinapura. You did help your cousins, the Pandavas, settle down there when they got the land. And then the Shakra Prastham, which is coming in the 4th stanza, first word, Shakra is referring to Indra. So with that, you got rid of the Khandiva forest, you helped establish Shakra Prastham for the Pandavas, Indraprastha, and then you finally got back to Dwaraka. So all of these things, right, is happening here. So Snigdham Mugdham, Satataamapi Tam Lalayan Satyabhamam. So Krishna went with Satyabhama in this time. Satyabhamam, Yato Bhuyaha, Putta is Bhuyas, Saha Khalu Taya, Yajñaseni Vivaham. Snigdham Mugdham Satatam Apitam Lalayan Satyabhamam Yato Bhuyas Saha Khalutaya Yajñaseni Vivaham.
Snigdham mugdham satatamapitam lalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas saha kalutaya yagnaseni vivaham.
Yajñaseni.
Oh, Yagna. Yeah, sorry. Snigdham mugdham satatamapitam lalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas saha kalutaya yagnaseni vivaham.
स्निग्धां मुग्धां सततमपितां लालयन् सत्यभामां यादो भूयः सह कलुतया याज्ञसेनी विवाहम् स्निग्धां मुग्धां सततमपितां लालयन् सत्यभामां यादो भूयः सह कलुतया याज्ञसेनी विवाहम्.
The first line la mugdham kapram comma pause. Okay, you are pausing after satatam apitam. So snigdham mugdham kapram pause. Okay. Partha prithye punarapi comma mana gastito hasti puryam comma shakra prastham puramapi vibho comma samvidhaya gato bhuhu. That is one word. Samvidhaya gato bhuhu. Partha prithye punarapi mana gastito hasti puryam shakra prastham puramapi vibho samvidhaya gato bhuho.
पार्थप्रीत्यै पुनरपि मनाघास्थितो हस्तिपुर्याम् शक्रप्रस्थं पुरमपि विभो संविधायागतो भूः पार्थप्रीत्यै पुनरपि मनागास्थितो हस्तिपुर्याम् शक्रप्रस्थं पुरमपि विभो संविधायागतो भूः
पार्थप्रीत्यै पुनरभिमनागा स्थितो हस्तिपुर्यां शक्रप्रस्थं पुरमभि विभो संवितायागतो भूः.
And in the punarapi from pause, okay? Third line.
Not after Vibho, is it?
The Vibho is in the fourth line, right? So Partha Preetye Punarapi. Pause.
Okay, second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yado bhuya पार्थप्रीत्यै पुनरभि मनागस्थितो हस्तिपुर्यां शक्रप्रस्थं पुरमभि विभो संवितायागतो भूः.
Answer two. Bhadram Bhadram Bhavadavarajaam Kauravenatyamaanaam Twadvachatam Ahruta Puhanamaskari Shakrasunuhu Tatra Kruddham Bhalamanunayen Pratyagastena Sardham Shakraprastham Priyasakamude Satyabhama Sahayah. So about 15 years worth of stories happen in this one stanza, right? So as you all know, like the Pandavas had this agreement where, because Draupadi was married to 5 brothers, so when somebody is with Draupadi is with one of the brothers, nobody else can enter into those quarters. So one day Arjuna's bow was there. However, Draupadi was with Yudhishthira, so he was in a, he didn't know what to do, whether to go in and get his bow and break that bow or not to, but he had to go help somebody. So he ends up going into the quarters, because of which he then inflicts on himself a 12-year Tirtha Yatra, right? Arjuna has to take it up. So in this Tirtha Yatra, when Arjuna is going around the country, right, he also had an eye on Krishna and Balarama's sister Subhadra. Now, Balarama had a plan. See, Balarama is very close to Duryodhana, right? He wants to help Duryodhana. And in the previous chapter, we saw how Balarama ends up going there and teaching Duryodhana how to fight the mace and everything. So he was a Shishya. So Duryodhana wanted Subhadra to marry, Balarama wanted Duryodhana to marry Subhadra. But Arjuna then ends up coming to Dwaraka. He's dressed up like a sannyasi, like some devotee of Shiva. And then he goes, he hangs around in that area for a while. Krishna knows what it is. And then he sees how Arjuna is meeting Subhadra. Then Krishna gets hold of Arjuna because he realizes it. Then he says, look, if Subhadra is also interested in you, then I will help you abduct Subhadra and you both run away. So he says, Arjuna says, sure. Then Krishna goes, talks to Subhadra and says, do you want to marry Arjuna or Duryodhana? She says, Arjuna. So Krishna then gives up his own chariot to Arjuna and says, she will go, let's take how, he says, just like how I abducted Rukmini, I'll tell you the same story. You can repeat the same thing. One day she's going to go to the Shiva temple. When she's coming back, you just take my chariot, grab her and just run. Right? And that's what Arjuna ends up doing. Now, Balarama is not happy with it and all that stuff. Krishna explains to Balarama. So all of those are detailed stories. But now here Arjuna gets married to Subhadra, and then they go back to Shakraprastha, which is Indraprastha. And you also, Krishna, along with Satyabhama, decide to go spend some more time with Pandavas in Indraprastha. So Bhadram Bhavada Varajam Kauravenarthya Manam. So that whole line is together, no pause there. Comma, Twadvacha tam ahrita, comma, Kuhana maskari shakra sunuhu. So the first one, Bhadra, see, Bhadra means someone who's very virtuous, a person who's of high virtue. So he is saying 2 times Bhadra means the virtuous Shubhadra, because that is, the Bhadra also means Shubhadra here. That's why it's 2 Bhadrams coming. Bhadram Bhavada Varajam Kauravenatyamaanam Twadvachatam Ahruta Puhana Maskari Shakrasunuhu.
Bhadram Bhavadavarajam Kauravenadhyamanam Twadvachatamahruta Kuhana Maskari Shukrasunuhu. Shakrasunuhu. Yeah. Yeah, not Shukra. Yeah, sorry. Bhadram Bhavadavarajam Kauravenadhyamanam त्वद्वाचा तामाहृत गुहना मस्करी शक्रसूनुः
भद्रां भद्रां भवतवरजां गौरवेणार्त्यमानां त्वद्वाचा धामहृत गुहना मस्करी शक्रसूनुः भद्रां भद्रां भवतवरजां गौरवेणार्त्यमानां त्वद्वाचा धामकृत गुहना मस्करी शक्रसूनुः
तत्र क्रुद्धं बलम् अनुनयन् प्रत्यगास्तेन सार्धं शक्रप्रस्थं प्रिय सख मुदे सत्यभामा सहायः तत्र क्रुद्धं बलमनुनयन् प्रत्यगास्तेन सार्धं शक्रप्रस्थं प्रिय सख मुदे सत्यभामा सहायः
तत्र क्रुद्धं बलमनुनयन् प्रत्यग्रास्तेन सार्धं शक्रप्रस्थं प्रियसखमुदे सत्यभामा सहायः तत्र क्रुद्धं बलमनुनयन् प्रत्यगास्तेन सार्धं शक्रप्रस्थं प्रियसखमुदे सत्यभामा सहायः
तत्र कृतं बलमनुनयन् प्रत्यगास्तेन सार्धं चक्रप्रस्थं प्रियसखमुदे सत्यभामा सहायः तत्र कृतं बलमनुनयन् प्रत्यगास्तेन सार्धं चक्रप्रस्थं प्रियसखमुदे सत्यभामा सहायः
சார்தம்னு என்ன?
along tena sadham is just going along with him. So yeah, just along with. Stanza 3. Tatra क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः खाण्डव प्रीणिताग्निः भ्रातृत्रस्तां प्रणयविवशां देव पैतृष्वसेः राज्ञां मध्ये सपदि जहृषे मित्रविन्दाम् अवन्तीम्. Now it's where all these marriages are going to start to happen. So very immediately all this very one stanza 2 will go on. So Krishna, one day Arjuna and Krishna were actually strolling along Yamuna, right? The banks of Yamuna. So they see one very attractive young woman coming. Arjuna goes, asks her who you are. So she says, I am the daughter of the sun god, who's the deity of Kalindi, which is Yamuna. So I am the deity of Yamuna. So it comes from the Kalinda mountains. That's why it's called Kalindi. So she says, I'm Kalindi, I'm the deity. I'm the goddess of the river Yamuna. And she says, I've been doing tapas for several years because I want to marry the Lord himself. And I've been waiting. And she says, I realized it when the God was born and his father tried to cross the river, right? And from that time, I remember that this is the person I want to actually marry. So that Kalindi has been waiting. So then Krishna gets married to Kalindi. He actually takes Kalindi, goes to Dwaraka and then gets married. But anyway, he gets married to Kalindi. That is the third, that's the fourth one. So we started with Rukmini. Then we went to Jambavati, then Satyabhama, then Kalindi is number 4. Then the fifth one is it says Paitrushva Seim. Paitrushva Seim is father's sister's daughter. In Tamil they say Atta Ponnu, right? So father's sister's daughter. So that she was the princess of Avanti. So her name is Mitravindha. That's her name. So, and all of these things will have a standard thing that the kings will have many sons, very similar to the Rukmini story, right? The king will have many sons. He'll have a daughter. The sons will want the sister to marry somebody who is strategic to the kingdom, right? So somebody else. But the daughter will love somebody else, which is the same story that is going to happen here. So Mitravinda really wants to marry Krishna, and Krishna says, okay. So it's a Swayamvara ceremony that happens there. Krishna goes there, and Mitravinda ends up picking Krishna as the husband she wants to marry, and then Krishna gets married to Mitravinda as well, right? So that is all of that is condensed into this one stanza. So Tatra Kridan Napi Cha Yamuna. Sorry.
Sorry. Who's the second one after Rukmini?
Rukmini kapran the Jambavati, the Jambavan, Jambavati, right? And then when he comes and gives the jewel back to Satrajit, then he marries Satyabhama, right? So that is the third. And then the Kalindi is fourth, Mitravinda is fifth. So Tatra Kridan Api Cha Yamuna Kula Drishtam Grihitva, comma, Tam Kalindim Nagaramagamaha, comma, Khandava Prinitagnihi. So here Bhattacharya is talking about the burning of the Khandava forest here, although that incident happened. So this, some of it is stories is separated, but anyway. Tatra Kridhannapi cha Yamuna Kula Drishtam Grihitva Tam Kalindim Nagaramagamaha Khandava Prinitagnihi.
तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमघः नगरमगमः खाण्डव
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
नगरमगमः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः
तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः काण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः काण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः
Bhatru Trastam Pranaya Vivasham, comma, Deva Paitrushvaseyim, comma, Rajnyam Madhye Sapadi Jahrishe, comma, Mitravindam Avantim. So Mitravinda is the name. Mitravindam Avantim. Bhatrutrastam Pranaya Vivasham Deva Paitrushvaseyim Rajnyam Madhye Sapadi Jahrishe Mitravindam Havantim.
भ्रातृस्त्रास्तां प्रणयविवशां देवपैतृष्वसेयीं राज्ञां मध्ये सपदि जगृषे मित्रविन्दामवन्तीं भ्रातृस्त्रास्तां प्रणयविवशां देवपैतृष्वसेयीं राज्ञां मध्ये सपदि जगृषे मित्रविन्दामवन्तीम्
भ्रातृत्रस्तां प्रणयविवसां देवभैतृष्वसेयीं राज्ञां मध्ये सपदि जहृषे मित्रविन्दामवन्तीं भ्रातृत्रस्तां प्रणयविवसां देवभैतृष्वसेयीं राज्ञां मध्ये सपदि जहृषे मित्रविन्दामवन्तीम्.
Stanza 4. Satyam gatva punarudavaho nagnajinnandanam tam badva sapta picha vrishabaran saptamurtir nimeshat bhadram nama pradaduratate deva santardanadyas tatsodharyat varada bhavata sapi paitrushvasehi. So there was this, like Narayana or Vishnu has three kind of, Lakshmi Devi, Bhu Devi, and there is a third person called as Nila Devi. There are three wives. So Lakshmi Devi is who is born as Rukmini, which the first marriage already happened there. Then Bhu Devi is born as Satyabhama, which we saw that marriage already. And the third one is called Nila Devi. So like we said, anytime the Lord Avataram happens, he decides who all has to come in which form and to what purpose, right? So this Nila Devi is born as a person called Satya. So she's the Nagnajin Nandanam. She's the daughter of a king called Nagnajit. So because she's a daughter of Nagnajit, she's also called as Nagnajiti. That's her other name. Satya is her other name. So you can call it either way. So this Nagnajiti, so for her Swayamvaram, the king Nagnajit said, whoever is coming to marry my daughter has to fight 7 fierce bulls at the same time. right? So there'll be 7 bulls in an arena. You have to win all the 7 bulls, then you can marry my daughter, right? So Krishna also, because it's Nila Devi, she has come. So Krishna has to now come and marry her, right? So Krishna also comes to that Swayamvaram. And then here it says, you, Krishna, Sapta Murtir. At the same time, you take 7 different forms, battle the 7 different bulls, defeat those bulls, take control of them. And with that, the king then gets you married to Nagnajiti or Satya, which is Nila Devi. So that is the other marriage that happens. So the next one is, so this Nagnajiti is also Krishna's like, what do you call, maternal uncle's daughter. So it's kind of related in that way also. Next is a person called Bhadra. So this Bhadra is also, if you remember, the same word is coming at the end of the 4th stanza, Paitrushvaseyi. Like I said, Paitrushvaseyi is father, sister's daughter. So this Paitrushvaseyi, this Bhadra, so she was also, it's a very similar story. Brothers were there and they were there, and Krishna, you went there, but there was no as much of a battle. Again, there was another Swayamvara, and Bhadra ended up picking you, Krishna. So you ends up marrying Bhadra. So I don't know the backstory of who Bhadra is, but that is the other marriage that is also happening here. So Satyam Gatva Punarudavaho Nagnajin Nandanam Tam. So no pause there, comma at the end. Badva Sapta Picha Vrishavaran, comma, Sapta Murtir Nimeshat. Satyam Gatva Punarudavaho Nagnajin Nandanam Tam. Badva Sapta Picha Vrishavaran, Sapta Murtir Nimeshat.
Satyam Gatva Punarudavaho Nagnajinnandanam Tam Bhadva Saptapi cha Vrishavaran Saptamurtirnimeshat. Satyam Gatva Punarudavaho Nagnajinnandanam Tam Bhadva Saptapi cha Vrishavaran Saptamurtirnimeshat.
Satyam gatva punarudavaho nagnajindanam tam bhakva saptabicha vrishavaran saptamurtirnimeshat.
The first line, Nagnajin in sound, Nagnajin Nandanam.
Okay. Satyam gatva punarudavaho nagnajinandanam tam bhaktva saptabicha vrishavaran saptamurtirnimeshat.
Bhadram Nama Pradaduratha Te Deva Santardhanadhya is there. Put a is, join, essentially say that line together. Santardhanadhyas Tatsodarya, and then put a comma. So the entire 3rd line, and then after Tatsodarya in the 4th line, you put a comma. Bharada Bhavataha, put a is, Bhavatas Sapi Paitrushvaseyi. Bhadram Nama Pradaduratate Deva Santardhanadhyas Tatsodharya Varada Bhavatas Sapi Paitrushvasehi.
Bhadram Nama Pradadhuradate Deva Santardhanadyas Tatsodarya Varada Bhavatas Sapi Paitrushvaseyi. Bhadram Nama Pradadhuradate Deva Santardhanadyas Tatsodarya Varada Bhavatas Sapi Paitrushvaseyi.
Padram nama pradadurade deva sandartanatya tatsodarya varada bhavadasabi paitrushvaseyi.
Shanti, and the 3rd line is will end out because the 4th line has the is, right? So it kind of, when you say that Santardhanadhyas Tatsodarya.
Oh. Padram nama pradadurade deva sandartanatyas tatsodarya varada bhavadasabi paitrushvaseyi.
Answer 5. Partadhirapyakrutalavanam toyamatrabhilaksham laksham chitva saparamavritah lakshmanam madrakanyam ashtavevam tava samabhavan vallabhastatra madhye Shushrodatvam Surapatigira Bhauma Duscheshtitani. So then, at that time, like every year, in every time, at various periods, right, the kings all want their daughters to get married to the best. So they all have some level of competition, and the type of competition changes depending on which era you were there. So at that point, in that time, the kings always had this thing where they'll have a fish spinning on the top, and then the person who's coming has to hit the fish. That's how Draupadi also got, Arjuna also won Draupadi. But here he says to Krishna, in this marriage of Lakshmana, right? Her father was even more stricter than Drupada, right? Draupadi's father. So he was even more stricter. He says not only is the fish going to be spinning and you cannot look, it's just more complicated, some other different complicated way. You have to still pierce the eye of the fish which is spinning on the top by looking at the water without looking. Some extra condition was there in this case. To the extent it says even Partha, even Arjuna could not go and hit that fish. That's how complicated it was. But however, you, Krishna, you hit that fish and then you got married to Lakshmana, who's the Madra Kanya, who's the daughter of the king of Madra. So with this, Ashtavevam, with this, you now have 8 wives you got married to. So who wants to say the list of 8 wives in sequence?
I can say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
First was Rukmini, Jambavati, Satyabhama, Kalindi, Chitravinda, Satya, Nagnajiti.
Nagnajiti is Satya.
Okay, and then Bhadra, and then Lakshmanyai.
Lakshmana. Yeah, the Lakshman is a male name, right? Rama, Lakshmana is a male name. Lakshmana, if it becomes, that becomes a female name. That's the Lakshmana here. That's the 8th one, right? So that's all you'll have to remember. These are the 8 names you'll have to remember, because the next one, 16,000 are going to come. Nobody knows that names. You don't have to remember. So when I was in my 9th and 10th grade, studying in Bombay, right? Math professor, we used to be standing in the assembly line. And so somebody has to proctor when the kids are standing to make sure they're standing properly. So my math teacher used to come and he used to have a stick in his hand, right? And he'll be hitting the stick, he'll be walking slowly. Suddenly he'll come and he'll start hitting your feet and say, okay, Rajesh, what is A plus B whole cube? Right? So he'll be like, asking at that time. Similarly, you have to kind of remember, when I see you all, I'll ask you this question. You just have to remember the 8 names. That's all. So next, what happens after this 8? So Krishna, you marry these 8 women, and then now you're spending the time with these 8. So at that time, you come to hear about this person called as Bhauma. This Bhauma is coming from the root word Bhuma. Right? Bhuma, son, Bhauma. So now you can relate who that will be. So this Bhauma ends up stealing some special earrings which belong to Indra's mother. So Aditi's earrings, this Bhauma steals, and he also ends up, he's a very powerful ruler, and he goes and steals a lot of things that belong to the gods. And the final straw that broke the camel's back was when he stole Indra's mother's earrings. So Indra comes to Krishna and says, Krishna, you have to get rid of this Bhauma, right? He's actually being a terror, and he's also done a lot of other bad things also. So you come to hear about it. So Parthadhyair apya kritalavanam, put a comma, toya matrabhilaksham, comma, laksham chitva shaparam avritaha, put a visarga there in comma, shaparam avritaha, comma, lakshmanam madra kanyam. Parthadhirapyakritalavanam toyamatra bhilaksham laksham chitva shaparam avritaha lakshmanam madra kanyam.
Vairapyakrutalavanam toyamatraabhilaksham laksham chitva shaparamavrutaha lakshmana madrakanyam. Vairapyakrutalavanam toyamatraabhilaksham laksham chitva shaparamavrutaha lakshmana madrakanyam.
Parthyadhyair abhyakrutalavam toyamatrabhilaksham laksham sitva sabaramavrutaha Lakshmanamadrakanyam.
Okay, and the first word first time. Parthadhyair apyakrita lavanam.
Okay. Parthyadyair.
Parthadhyair.
Parthyadyair abhyakritalavam.
Lavanam. Krita
Abhyakrita
lavanam.
lavanam. Parthyadyair abhyakritalavanam. Toyamatrabilaksham. Laksham chitva sabaramavృతాః. Lakshmanamadrakanyam.
And Partha, again, Parthya, I think you use the ya letter there, sound there. So Partha, okay. Okay, let's just switch halfway. Vasantakar, you can be student. Minu, you can be student. Ashtavevam tava samabhavan vallabhas tatra madhye, comma, shushrota tvam surapati gira, comma, bhauma duscheshti tani, short e at the end. Ashtavevam tava samabhavan vallabhas tatra madhye shushrota tvam surapati gira, bhauma duscheshti tani.
अष्टावेवं तव अष्टावेवं तव समभवन् वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये शुश्रोथ त्वां सुरपतिगिरा भौमदुश्चेष्टितानि अष्टावेवं तव समभवन् वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये शुश्रोथ त्वं सुरपतिगिरा भौमदुश्चेष्टितानि
अष्टावेवं तव समभवन् वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये शुश्रोदत्वं सुरपतिगिरा भौमदुश्चेष्टितानि अष्टावेवं तव समभवन् वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये शुश्रोदत्वं सुरपतिगिरा भौमदुश्चेष्टितानि.
Stanza 6. Smrita yatam pakshe pravaramadiruಢಸ್ತ್ವಮಗಮೋ ವಹನ್ನಂಕೆ ಭಾಮಾಂ ಉಪವನಮಿವಾರಾತಿ ಭವನಂ ಬಿಬಿಂದನ್ ದುರ್ಗಾನಿ ತ್ರುಟಿತ ಪೃತನಾ ಶೋಣಿತರಸೈಃ ಪುರಂ ತಾವತ್ ಪ್ರಾಗ್ಜ್ಯೋತಿಷಂ ಅಕುರುತಾ ಶೋಣಿತಪುರಂ. So Smrita, anytime Krishna, you think of it, your vehicle Garuda is there ready for you. So when Indra comes and says that this Bhauma has to be taken care of, he's actually done a lot of bad things. Krishna says it's time for me to go. So Bhauma is in a much farther place. So you, Krishna, you think of it and Garuda comes. But this time, Krishna is not going alone to the battle. He is actually having one other person riding along with him, sitting on his lap. So that is Satyabhama. So I don't know if some of you have seen that when I was growing up, my grandmother's house, they had this photo of a Garuda with Krishna sitting, and then on his lap, Satyabhama was sitting. That photo was there. I don't know what happened. Very old photo. So anyway, that photo is because now they're going, and we'll see why Satyabhama is going to this battle, right? We'll see that much later on. Anyways, so you go, Krishna, and you're going there as if we are going to go defeat this the Bhauma, and Bhauma is Narakasura, right? So you're going to defeat this Bhauma, but you're going as if you're going to enjoy in a garden with your wife, right? You're going in a very casual way. You and Satyabhama are going. So you're actually going to this place called Pragjyotisham. That is the place where Narakasura is there. And so you go there, and then once you go there, then you start now beginning the battle with all the other people who are there. Smrita yatam, comma, Pakshi pravaram adhiruಢas tvamagamo. If you want to break at that ma, pravaram adhiruಢas tvamagamo, comma, bahannanke bhamam. So that mu that is there, you put a im and a comma, bhamam. Next word starts with a u. Upavanam ivarati bhavanam. Smrita yatam pakshe pravaram adhiruಢas tvamagamo bahannanke bhamam upavanamivarati bhavanam.
मृतायातं पक्षिप्रवरमधिरूढस्त्वमगमो वहन्नं के भामाम् उपवनमिवाराति भवनम् स्मृतायातं पक्षिप्रवरमधिरूढस्त्वमगमो वहन्नं के भामाम् उपवनमिवाराति भवनम्.
स्मृतायातं पक्षि प्रवरमधिरूढस्त्वं त्वमगमो वहन्नङ्गे वामाम् उपवनम्
Upavanam.
उपवनमि, right?
Upavanam ivarati.
उपवनमिवारादिभवनं स्मृतायादं पक्षिप्रवरमतिरूढस्त्वमगमो मग्निनङ्गे वामाम् उपवनमिवारादि भवनं.
Yeah, vanam is a forest. Vanam forest, right? So upavanam is like a garden. So upavanam ivarati bhavanam. So you can remember that.
Upavanam ivaradi. Okay.
Yeah. Vibhindhan durgani trutita pritana shonita rasaihi, then comma, puram tavat pragjotisham, pragjotisham. So that ma that is there, put a in there, comma. Next word starts with a akurutaha is there, put a ish. Akurutash shonita puram.
I just want to show the Satyabama photo.
Awesome. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Binu. Vibhindhan durghani trutita pritana shonita rasaihi puram tavat pragjotisham akuruta shonita puram.
Vibhindan durgani trutita prutanashonitarasaihi puram davat pragjoshitam akurathashonitapuram.
Must not go the fourth line. Pragjotisham.
Yes. Vibhindan durgani trutita prutanashonitarasaihi puram davat pragjotisham akurathashonitapuram.
Vibhindan, right?
Vibhindan. Da. First. The. And the da. Vibhindan.
Vibhindan durgani drutita brudana shonida rasaihi puram tavat bragjotisham akuruda shonitapuram, right?
Yep.
Akuruda shonitapuram.
Correct.
Vibhindan durgani drudabridana shonida rasaihi puram tavat pragjotisham akruta shonitapuram.
Stanza 7. Murastvam panchasyo jaladivanamadyadudapatate sachakre chakrena pradalita shiramangshu bhavatam chaturdantair dantavalapatibhirindhana samaram ratangena chitva narakamakarostirna narakam. So in the course of this, and we learned the meaning of a couple of Krishna names. Right, we saw how the word Krishna came about. That was during the naming ceremony in the 44th Dasakam. Then we saw how he was called Dhamodara because we saw how the Udara around the Dhama was tied around his Udara. Then we also saw, I don't know if you saw Keshava in this session or maybe some other class. Keshava is another word which comes when he gets rid of Keshi. So anyone knows why his name is Murari? Any guess? Okay, then you learn it here then. So one of Narakasura's commander, his name is Mura. He was 5-headed, and he was living in the moat, which was around, around all these forts. They have this moat, which is a water body, right? So you can't enter that fort, etc., till you cross the moat. And this Mura was the 5-headed demon who was guarding the fort of Narakasura. So first, before you enter, Krishna has to battle this Mura. So, because he was the enemy of Mura, he's called Murari. That's the one meaning of this. And so Krishna then battles this Mura, gets rid of him with chakrena. With Sudarshana Chakra, to Krishna, you get rid of Mura, with this Mura. So now after all the other people, all the other commanders and Mura and everybody has been gotten rid of, finally Bhauma comes, or Narakasura. You see, Naraka means hell. Asura is a bad demon. His name is Bhauma, right? But he's a bad demon as if he belonged to hell. That's why he's called Narakasura, right? But his name is Bhauma only. So Bhauma comes now and he comes to the battle. Now there's a long battle that happens between Krishna and Bhauma, right? And at one point he throws things, it hits Garuda, it hits Krishna, and Krishna is not doing anything. Now there are two stories which fork from here, or two theories of what happened, right? In Bhagavatam, it says Satyabhama is fed up now, and she says, Krishna, please get rid of this guy, right? And then Krishna then gets rid of, with the Sudarshana Chakra, Krishna gets rid of Narakasura. Now the question comes is, why is Satyabhama coming to a battlefield, right? That doesn't make sense, right? What is the story behind that, right? So it's not there in Bhagavatam, but it's there in other places. So that's why I'll clarify that. That's why it's not part of Narayaniyam explanation. What happens is, this Narakasura, he goes, like all these asuras, he goes and prays to Brahma. They either pray to Brahma or Shiva, because that's when you'll get the boon you want, right? So he goes and prays, and Brahma says, and they all say, I don't want to die. So Brahma says, that's not possible, you put conditions. So the condition this Narakasura says is, I should only die in the hands of my mother, because when will a mother kill its son, right, or a child? That will never happen, because I should only die in the hands of the mother. So Rama says, okay, that's too much to ask, but your mother has to approve. Let's put it that way, right? And then at the same time, Bhudevi also gets a blessing to say that her son should only die. He has double protection, right? He's saying Bhuma Devi is also going and asking, saying her son should only die when she wishes that he dies. Till then, he should not die, right? So that's what is happening. Like I said, Satyabhama is one of the incarnation of Bhudevi. I said that earlier. So that's why Satyabhama is coming. So when Krishna is getting hurt and Krishna is not able to fight, Krishna then acts as if he's getting hurt and he's going to be, fainting. That's when Satyabhama is like fed up and says, Krishna, please get rid of this asura, right? So now his own mother's incarnation, right? Mother's incarnation is wishing that the son die. That's when Krishna then is able to now get rid of Narakasura, right? So that's what is happening here. So with that, you, Krishna, however, Narakam Akaros, you are not sending him to Naraka. You are sending him beyond Naraka. It means he's actually getting liberated because he's dying in your hands. He's actually getting liberated, and then he's past the Tirna Narakam. He's crossing the hell, which is going into liberation. So that's how all of that is happening here. So Murastvam Panchasyo, Jaladi Vana Madhyad Udapatat. You can break at the du, Madhyad Udapatat, Sa Chakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata. Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladivana Madhyad Udapatat. Sa Chakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata.
Murastvam Panchasyo Jalathivana Madhyadudapatat Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata. Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladivana Madhyadudapatat Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata.
Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladivanamadhyat Udapadat Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata. Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladivanamadhyat Udapadat Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata.
Tatur Dantair Dantavala Patibhir Indhana. I'm just breaking it. Patibhir Indhana Samaram. So there's one line together, comma there. Chatur Dante. So Narakasura is coming in an elephant which has got 4 tusks, right? Rathangena Chitwa, comma, Narakam Akaros Tirna Narakam. Chatur Dante Dantavala Patibhirindhana Samaram. Ratangena Chitwa Narakam Tirna Narakam.
Cheturdam Tair Dantavalapati Phiridhana Samaram Rathangena Chitva Narakamakarosti Narakam. Cheturdam Tair Dantavalapati Phiridhana Samaram Rathangena Chitva Narakamakarosti Narakam.
चतुर्दन्तैर्दन्तावलपदिभिरिन्दानसमरं रथाङ्गेन चित्वा नरकम् अकरोस्तीर्णनरकम्
You know the last line, chitva kapram comma. Fourth line.
Oh, Chitwa Kapalam, sorry. चतुर्दन्तैर्दन्तावलपतिभिरिन्दान समरं रथाङ्गेन चित्वा नरकमकरोस्तीर्न नरकम्.
Stanza 8. Stuto bhumya rajyam sapadi bhagadatesya tanaye gajanchaikam dattva prajighayita nagan nijapurim khalena baddhanam swagata manasam shodasha punas sahasrani strinam apicha dhanarashim cha vipulam. So after Narakasura, of course, is now dead. So Bhumya, the Bhumi Devi comes and does a very big stuti to Krishna here. It's there in Bhagavatam, but here it's not there. She does a stuti, right? So she does a great stuti saying how great Krishna is. So that stuti happens there. And with that, oh Krishna, you then give Narakasura's son, Bhagadatta, kind of all the kingdom, right? The kingdom, you then make him the king, establish him as a king because he's a much nicer person. So you then crown him as the king. And then what happened now, the earring, if you remember the reason why one of these things started was the earring, right? The Aditi's earring which he had. So you then took the earring which was there in with Narakasura. But now the other thing that is happening in Narakasura which was not explained before was he had held in captive 16,000 women. So Shodasha Puna Sahasrani, 16 times 1,000. So 16,000 women were held captive by Narakasura. So, Krishna then we said, you know what, I'm going to free all these women because they were held captive. So Krishna, you freed all of them and you, Satyabhama, along with that earring and all the 16,000 women, you got them all back to Dwaraka, right, safely. Stutho Bhumya, comma, Rajyam Sapadi Bhagadattesya Tanaye, comma, Gajanchaikam Dattva, comma, Prajighayita Nagan Nijapurim. Stuto Bhumya Rajyam Sapadi Bhagadattesya Tanaye Gajanchaikam Dattva Prajighayita Nagan Nijapurim.
Stuto Bhumya Rajyam Sapadi Bhagadattesya Tanaye Gajam Jaikam Dattva Prajighayita Nagan Nijapurim. Stuto Bhumya Rajyam Sapadi Bhagadattesya Tanaye Gajam Jaikam Dattva Prajighayita Nagan Nijapurim.
Tuto Bhumya Rajyam Sapati Bhagadattesya Tanaye Gajanchaikam Dattva Prajigayita Nagan Nijapurim. Stuto Bhumya Rajyam Sapati Bhagadattesya Tanaye Gajanchaikam Dattva Prajigayita Nagan Nijapurim.
And the Bhumya kapran there's a comma, okay, first line. Okay. Khalena Baddhanam, comma, Swagata Manasam Shodasha Punaha. You put a plus. Shodasha and put a is instead of the visarga. So Shodasha Punas Sahasrani Strinamapicha, comma, Dhana Rashim cha Vipulam. Khalena Baddhanam Swagata Manasam Shodasha Punas Sahasrani Strinam Apicha Dhanarashim cha Vipulam.
Khalena Baddhanam Swagata Manasam Shodasa Punas Sahasrani Srinam Apicha Dhanarasim cha Vipulam. Khalena Baddhanam Swagata Manasam Shodasa Punas Sahasrani Srinam Apicha Dhanarasim cha Vipulam.
Kalena Baddhanam Swagata Manasam Shodasha Punas Sahasrani Strinam Abhicha Dhanarashim cha Vipulam. Kalena Baddhanam Swagata Manasam Shodasha Punas Sahasrani Strinam Abhicha धनराशिं च विपुलम्.
Stanza 9. भौमापाहृतकुण्डलं तददिते दातुं प्रयातो दिवं शक्राद्यैर्महितः समं दयितया द्युस्त्रीषु दत्तः क्रिया कृत्वा कल्पतरुं वृषाभिपतितं जित्वेन्द्रमभ्यागमः तत्तु श्रीमददोष ईदृश इति व्याख्यातुमेवाकृताः. So then after that Krishna along with Satyabhama actually end up going to Indraloka to now give the earring to Aditi, right, which was actually taken by Narakasura, and Indra then very happily welcomes them, gives everything, and makes them happy. Now Satyabhama there says in Indraloka, she says that what, I want to bring this Kalpataru, I want to bring the Parijata tree that is there in Indra's garden to to Dwaraka. So at that point, Indra says, what, that is not possible, right? This is my tree, I can't give it. So here, but the also saying is, when Indra needs help, he always comes. However, when he gets something back, Shri Mother, the Madam that you get, when you have Shri with you, when you have prosperity with you, that always is a dosham, right, for Indra and for everybody else. So he refuses to return the favor. However, Krishna, you are able to convince him and then get that Kalpataru back to Kalpataru to Dwaraka. So that's why you must have heard in a lot of stories about how there was a Kalpataru or a Parijata tree which was in Satyabhama's quarter. So all of these they're going to get a quarter, which we'll see in the next stanza. But they all have a house, and Satyabhama's house had a had a Parijata tree. So you went and also returned the earring back to Aditi. So Bhauma Pahrita Kundalam, comma Tadadhiter. So Tadadhiter Datum Prayato Divam, comma Shakradhyir Mahitaha, put a is Mahitas Samam Dayitaya. I think some books do not have the im there. So put a im Samam Dayitaya, comma Dyustrishu Datta Hriya. Bhaumapahृta Kundhalam Tadaditer Datum Prayato Divam Shakradhyair Mahitas Samam Dayitaya Dyustrishu Datta Hriya.
भौमापाहृतकुण्डलं तददितेर्दातुं प्रयातो दिवं शक्राद्यैर्महितः समं दयितया द्युस्त्रीषु दत्तह्रिया. भौमापाहृतकुण्डलं तददितेर्दातुं प्रयातो दिवं शक्राद्यैर्महितः समं दयितया द्युस्त्रीषु दत्तह्रिया.
भौमाभाकृतकुण्डलं तदधिदेर्तातुं प्रयातो दिवं शक्राद्यैर्महितः समं दयितया द्युस्त्रीषु दत्तक्रिया. भौमाभाकृतकुण्डलं तदधिदेर्तातुं प्रयातो दिवं शुक्राद्यैर्महितः समं दयितया द्युस्त्रीषु दत्तक्रिया.
Second line, first word, Shakreshu, Shakradhyir. You Shukra choned by mistake, I think Shakradhyir. Okay.
Oh, Shakra. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Kritva Kalpatarum, comma Rushabhipatitam Jitvendram, if you want to break it, the im, Jitvendram Abhyagamaha, put a visarga and comma there. Jitvendram Abhyagamaha. Next line is goes away. Tattu Shri Mada Dosha Idrisha Iti, short e, Vyakyatum Eva Kritaha. Kritva Kalpatarum Rushabhipatitam Jitvendram Abhyagamaha. Tattu Srimada-dosha idrisha iti vyakyatumeva kritaha.
कृत्वा कल्पतरुं वृषाभिपतितं जित्वेन्द्रमभ्यागमः तत्तु श्रीमददोषैदृशैति व्याख्यातुमेवाकृताः. कृत्वा कल्पतरुं वृषाभिपतितं जित्वेन्द्रमभ्यागमः तत्तु श्रीमददोषैदृशैति व्याख्यातुमेवाकृताः.
कृत्वा कल्पतरुं वृषाभिपतितं जित्वेन्द्रम् अभ्यागमः तत्तु श्रीमददोष ईदृशीति व्याज्ञातुमेवाकृताः कृत्वा कल्पतरुं वृषाभिपतितं जित्वेन्द्रम् अभ्यागमः तत्तु श्रीमददोष ईदृश इति व्याज्ञातुमेवाकृताः.
That's it. कल्पध्रुं सत्यभामा भवन भुवि सृजन् द्व्यष्ट साहस्रयोषाः स्वीकृत्य प्रत्यगारं विहित बहुवपुर्लालयन् केलिभेदैः आश्चर्यानारधालोकित विविध गतिः तत्र तत्रापि गेहे भूयः सर्वासु कुर्वन् दश दशतनयान् पाहि वातालयेश. Kalpadrum Satyabhama. So the the Parijata tree is planted in Satyabhama's garden. Now this Dvi Ashta means 2 times 8, 16, Sahasra, 1000. So 16,000 women who have now come. So what do? The 16,000 women are now come taken shelter with Krishna, right? So he has to give protection to all these 16,000 women. So he gives each one an individual house or a quarter or a palace, whatever you want to call it, in Dwaraka. Now, the concept here is that you, Krishna, to give them protection, right? They have to get married to somebody. So you end up marrying them, quote unquote, but it cannot be taken literally as marriage, because this is one way of, Sayujya Yogam, of merging with the Lord or union with the Lord, right? So because later on in Mahabharata, there will come an incident where Kunti or some, I forget the exact purpose of it, but Kunti will come and say, the person who can help out at that particular point has to have 2 conditions. Should have never lied, and should be a pure brahmachari, right? So to the extent that Bhishma himself could not come, because Bhishma was actually once married long time back, and then he walked away from that, right? So since he wasn't fully married or something like that, so even Bhishma could not meet that criteria. Krishna was the only person at that entire time who could meet that criteria of being a brahmachari and then who has never lied. Now the question comes, Krishna, you're married 8 times and 6,000 times here and all. So we should not apply the traditional definition of marriage to what Krishna does, right? Like he was born with 4 hands and a full form, right? When he was born. So you cannot treat it like a human, and that standard definition doesn't apply. So while it says that he marries to give them protection for 16,000 women and give them all a palace in Dwaraka to take, it is actually a Sayujya Yogam that they have, which is actually union with the Lord himself, right? So with that, it comes, and then just one line, and then a Narada comes to Dwaraka once in a while, and when he comes, he was surprised because he wanted to test Krishna. So every house he goes, he sees the Krishna there. So he says, Tatra Tatra Bigehe. Every house you go there, Narada, you are seeing Krishna there, right? So in a way, that Pahi Vatalayesha, please protect me. So Kalpadrum Satyabhama Bhavana Bhuvi Srijan, Dveshta Sahasra Yoshaha, Swikritya Pratyagaram Dihita Bahu Vapur Lalayan Keli Bhedaihi. Second line, no pause. Kalpadrum.
Rajesh, sorry, Lalayanna inga Leelayannu கொடுத்திருக்கு.
Yeah, Lalayan is the thing. Lalayan is to sportingly love Anamari. So Lalayan, you can just say. Leela is an act of doing it. So it means the same thing.
Okay.
Kalpadrum Satyabhama Bhavana Bhuvi Srijan Dveshta Sahasra Yoshaha Swikritya Pratyagaram Vihita Bahuvapur Lalayan Keli Bhedaihi.
Also endla Kalpadrumamnu கொடுத்திருக்கு.
In Kalpadrum da.
Kalpadrum.
कल्पद्रुम सत्यभामा भवनभुविसृजन् द्रष्ट्यसाहस्रयोषाः स्वीकृत्य प्रत्यगारं विहितबहुवपुर्लालयन् केलिभेदैः कल्पद्रुम सत्यभामा भवनभुविसृजन् द्रष्ट्यसाहस्रयोषाः
Dveshta, I think you're saying Dveshtya, you are saying. Dveshta.
Yeah. Dvashtasahasrayoshah Svikritya Pratyagaram Vihita Bahuvapurlalayan Kelibhedaihi
Kalpadrum Satyabhama Bhavena Bhuvi Srujan Dvyashta द्वष्टसाहस्रयोषाः स्वीकृत्य प्रत्यागारं विहित बहुबभूर्लालयन् केलिभेदैः कल्पद्रुं सत्यभामा भवनभुवि सृजन् द्व्यष्टसाहस्रयोषाः स्वीकृत्य प्रत्यागारं विहित बहुबभूर्लालयन् केलिभेदैः
आश्चर्यान् नारदालोकित vividha gatihi. So that is there, remove it, put a visarga comma, gatihi comma, tatra tatrapi gehe comma, bhuyaha, put a is bhuyas, sarvasu kurvan dasha tanayan comma, pahi vatala yesha. आश्चर्यान् नारदालोकित विविध गतिः तत्र तत्रापि गेहे भूयः सर्वासु कुर्वन् दश तनयान् पाहि वातालयेश
आश्चर्यान्नारदालोकितविविधगतिः तत्र तत्रापि गेहे भूयः सर्वासु कुर्वन् दश तनयान् पाहि वातालयेश आश्चर्यान्नारदालोकितविविधगतिः तत्र तत्रापि गेहे भूयः सर्वासु कुर्वन् दश तनयान् पाहि वातालयेश
आश्चर्यान्नारदालोकित विविधगतिः तत्र तत्रापि गेहे भूयः सर्वासु कुर्वन् दश तनयान् पाहि वातालयेश आश्चर्यान्नारदालोकित विविधगतिः तत्र तत्रापि गेहे भूयः सर्वासु कुर्वन् दश तनयान् पाहि वातालयेश.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. We'll end the class here today. Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadebhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurupurusharthatmakam brahmatattvam tattavad bhati sakshat gurupavanapure hanta bhagyam jananam काहेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Rajesh garu.
Thank you. Bye.
Rajesh.
Bye everyone.
Thank you, Rajesh. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Andy.
Bye everyone.